to be a little rare to come on here and say, or go anywhere and say, that you got a 25-year-old all-star player who's just entering the peak of his career and probably hasn't even gotten to the true peak of his career yet on an incredibly reasonable deal considering the fact that he was an all-star this past season and he just got traded for basically a bag of dicks and picks that don't matter. But in the NBA of today, trades go down all the damn time, and with a lot of big names too. It's both interesting and then sometimes I think makes the league a little hard to follow. Too much player movement, if you will. But we already have a big salvo here as the San Antonio Spurs, whatever the hell they're doing, have traded Dejounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks for Danilo Gallinari and a bunch of future first-round picks and a pick swap, I think, in 2026. That's nuts. When you look at Murray, he's only going to be 26 in September. So to my point, like he's been in the league several years now, but he's still a very young player. He's coming off of his first All-Star appearance last season where he averaged over 21 points a game, 9 assists per game. He was the league leader in steals. Even more notable for Dejounte Murray, you should talk about a guy with 2 years left on his contract at a true bargain price for an all-star level player. He makes $16.5 million this upcoming season and then $17.7 million the year after that. And even if you're worried about durability or injury concerns, like the major ACL injury, that he's 3 seasons past that now, so you don't have to worry about that. So when you look at the Hawks and what they got in this deal, they got a young all-star who's just entering his mid-20s, who might have his best basketball ahead of him, at a ridiculously outstanding contract number for not just 1 season, but 2. Pairing him with Trae Young to have one of the arguably best backcourts in all of the National Basketball Association. And all the while, not only that, but because of the fact it was Gallinari in the deal, the Hawks come out of this from a salary cap perspective about $5 million ahead this upcoming season. And for a team that could use every bit of relief they can, the fact that you could get better and a lot better in a hurry, in theory, and save cap space, like who in the fuck wouldn't do that deal? Like, look at what they gave up. Gallinari's on, I think, an expiring contract, and his contract for this year is like $21 million. He's a high-end role player at this stage of his career. That's what he is. Probably always been. But that's what he is now, a high-end role player. He's good. But if you tell me I could trade him and a couple of first-round picks that are next year, 3 years, 5 years away, and I don't give a shit about those first-round picks, hell yeah, I'm going to trade for Dejounte Murray 100 out of 100 damn times. Are you nuts? Like, when you look at the picks that the Hawks gave up, 2023 first round, I think even that one belongs to Charlotte, doesn't it? Then 2025 and 2027, like, you know when you're making this trade for Dejounte Murray that more likely than not, you know, that 2023 pick is going to be mid to low first round, so it's not like you're really giving up much there. And you would say, theoretically, with Trae Young and potentially keeping Murray in the long term, that those 2025 and 2027 first round picks are also going to be pretty low in round 1. And then a pick swap in 2026 that it's hard to see at this moment at least, where the Spurs are going to want to swap draft positions with the Hawks, because you wonder what the hell the Spurs are doing at this point. They're getting in the Wembanyama sweepstakes, or however the hell you say that kid's name. That's going to be the dude. Everybody's trying to get in on him. But man, you look at this deal, and like as a Bulls fan, I say, like, I know it's realistic and it'd be odd, but I say, shit, I wish they could have get on some of the action like this. You get a guy in Murray that's a former second-team All-NBA defensive player, an all-star this past year, averaged over 20 points a game, really good facilitator, really good defender, league leader in steals, and I get him at $16 and $17 million respectively for the next 2 seasons. Fuck yeah, I'd do that 100 out of 100 times, especially when I look at what the hell the Hawks had to give up to get him. Are you fucking kidding me? That said, though, like, this is one of these scenarios where you have to be careful just getting caught up in the name and getting caught up in the resume and automatically assuming because of that name, because of that resume, that this is a great deal or this is a great fit. Because to me, I look at this deal on the surface and I say, Dejounte Murray and Trae Young in the same backcourt, yikes, I've got some concerns there. Is there going to be enough basketball to go around? Are there going to be enough shots to go around? You look at Trae Young, this is a guy that averaged, I think a little north of 20 shot attempts a game last year. Dejounte Murray is the clear-cut top option in San Antonio, averaged about 18 shots per game. Can you really expect to get the same shot level out of Murray in that Atlanta system? And you think about the way that Hawks offense runs, it's so dependent upon Trae Young with the ball in his damn hands, just like San Antonio is very dependent upon Dejounte Murray dominating the ball with the ball in his hands. How are these two guys going to be able to fit and coexist? I don't think it's an unfair question to ask. Like, how are they going to fit? How are they going to coexist? How is that going to help their offense? And when you also look at Murray, one of the things you want to be able to have with a guy like Trae Young, who obviously spaces the floor, he's a high-end three-point shooter in the league. He's an elite shooter, but he also can get to the rack on a consistent basis. You want a guy next to him that can help space the floor. Well, Dejounte Murray might shoot a lot of threes, but he's below average as a three-point shooter. I think he was like 31% from three last year. So a high-volume, low-efficiency type of three-point shooter, there should be some reason for concern in terms of the fit here. And are they going to have to do some roster shuffling in order to make this work? Like, could John Collins be dealt? And you say, well, how much will they miss him in his 50 games played per season? That's a fair question. So you also say, well, you bring in Murray. Yes, he was an all-star last year in San Antonio, but he would be the clear second fiddle to Young in Atlanta. Is he going to be able to put up those same numbers? And that's a fair point. Like, sometimes we get so caught up on the super team concept and, hey, these three guys are going to come together. And what gets forgotten a lot of times is there has to be sacrifices and changes in the numbers. So even though you're bringing in this guy with this name, they're going to, by nature, be typically a lesser player than what you're associating with their name and their brand and their legacy, because that's the only way it's going to freaking work. And even in that case, a lot of times it doesn't work. Or worse of all, they don't try to adjust and it becomes a disaster. However, this had to be worth the roll of the dice for the Hawks, didn't it? Like I said, to be able to get an all-star player like Murray in his mid-20s on that contract, I imagine Knicks fans have got to be despondent. They're beside themselves right now. They're saying, what the hell is Leon Rose doing? How the hell didn't you make this deal happen? And you know what? You'd be absolutely right for doing so. What the hell are they doing? Because you would have thought that this was the type of deal that you would want to do. Get Murray in the bright lights in the big city of New York. Instead, he gets traded to Atlanta, where those sports fans don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about the Hawks. Oh, here comes, I live in Atlanta, and I will tell you that is bunk. We absolutely do care, and you're absolutely full of shit, and you know it. There are some historically horrendous sports cities in this country. And Atlanta and Miami are two of them. And yes, I'm bringing the noise and the funk to those damn cities because your fan bases fucking suck. Now, maybe you could say there's actually things to do in Hotlanta and South Beach, and that's why we don't always go to the games. I kind of get that. But damn. To be able to pull off this deal? It's really hard to knock the Hawks for this one. Even if it ultimately backfires, even if it doesn't work. Like, you gave up first-round picks that don't fucking matter. You get a guy like this at that contract? Like, Christ. The Bulls are about to pay Zach LaVine a max contract, most likely, and pay him $40+ million a year. At the time of recording, I'm recording this on Wednesday night, so free agency hasn't officially started, you know what I mean? So, keep that in mind when you're going back and but the Bulls are going to pay Zach LaVine next year more than double the money of what Dejounte Murray is going to get from the Atlanta Hawks for this upcoming season. And then same thing for the upcoming season after that. And I could argue, like, how much of the real difference is there between Murray and LaVine? And frankly, because of Murray's ability to defend, I might take Murray over LaVine. And here comes the Bulls fans. I can't believe you would say such things, but realistically, when you look at the skill set, and especially when you look at the fucking contract, who would you rather have? Hell yeah! The Hawks had to do this deal. Damned if it works out or damned if it don't. They'd have been psycho not to.